What is the most devious secret you share with a sibling? Ever since me and my sister Jane were kids, our family would often take us to nudist resorts, and this weekend was no exception. The first morning we decided we would bike downhill to the lake from our cabin, which took a little more than an hour. When we finally got to the lake, we immediately stripped down, but decided to go for a long run and swim. We felt like triathletes. It was great. After our hours of working out, we met our parents on the beach. Eventually the sun went down and it was time to go home. We didn't want to ride our bikes, so we squeezed everything into our modest Toyota. The problem was, the back seat barely had room for me to sit, let alone my sister. The only solution was for me to take the back seat and for Jane to sit on my lap. And of course we didn't bother putting on clothes. We were off, driving down the country roads with my parents fully clothed and fastened in the front, while my completely nude sister sat on my lap in the back. The awkward arrangement of the bike tires and cooler in the back, and the seatbelt strap over her waist forced my arm to rest in a way that my hand fell on the middle of Jane's upper thigh. Still, the whole scenario seemed completely normal to Jane and me, and we just chatted away as normal. About 15 minutes into the drive, as we began to drive on the bumpy country roads, I felt something unusual. A rush of sticky moisture saturated my lap. It took me a few seconds to realize what happened, and I think Jane realized too. We were dead silent. She shifted her weight on her lap awkwardly to make her spill less obvious. A minute later I felt even more moisture, now on a different part of my lap, so it was even more obvious. I kept my composure on the outside, but in my head, I couldn't believe what was happening. My sister was spilling more and it was all over my lap. She shifted her weight again, and that again made it even worse. I was trying to imagine it was just her body sweating, but I had goosebumps from the cold air conditioning in the car. There was no question Jane was leaking all over my lap. She moved one more time and I tried as well, but we were so snug back there to accomplish nothing. I knew she was accidentally leaking, but now I was doing everything I could to stop myself from getting excited. I shifted to sit more upright, but my hands were trapped on her lap into her side. The more I thought about the scenario, the more difficult it became. She shifted one more time and sure enough, I could feel the blood rushing down there. I tried to slump back in the seat, but there was no stopping it. Luckily, my dad was listening to the radio and focused on the road, and my mom was asleep. Jane and I remained dead silent. Then it happened. Jane uncomfortably shifted her weight on my lap once again, and I'd only tried to sit upright again. As soon as Jane felt that, she perked up and did her best to lift her weight off my lap until there was no way either of us could ignore it. I could tell she was doing her best to lift herself higher off me, but we were so crammed there was nowhere to go. She continued leaking on me, looking straight ahead. It felt like an eternity. I had my eye on the car clock and figured we were probably only about 5 minutes from our cabin, so thankfully the end was in sight. But the more I thought about the situation, the more my mind wandered, and I know Jane felt the same because she was only getting more and more moist. But then, to my surprise, she did something shocking. She moved one hand off her knee and placed it on top of mine, placed her other hand under my leg, and twisted her head sideways to catch me in the corner of her eye. She smirked, and then she pushed down on me firmly. My jaw dropped, and I could not believe what was happening, but at the same time, I'd never felt anything so amazing. She looked straight ahead again, lifted herself slightly off me, then pushed down firmly again. I could not believe it. In my freshman year at college, I had my share of love and knew how everything worked and felt, but I'd never felt anything as surreal as that moment. Jane pushed down again, and again, slowly, discreetly, but very methodically. Even more crazy was that our parents were in the car right in front of us, completely clueless. After about 5 or 6 thrusts down, I knew I was going to finish at any moment. She knew that as well, and was getting excited by it. She lifted herself up a little higher and prepared for one big pushdown. In doing so, she pulled herself a little too far up, and my guy slipped out of her. After about 20 seconds of awkward confusion, Jane clenched my hand tight and used her other hand to tuck me back up into her. I could not believe it. This was no longer just an accident. Jane wanted my companionship, and that was all it took. 2 quick pumps and I finished. Jane could feel it too, and she peeped out a little high-pitched, "Oh!" To my horror, both my parents noticed. Thankfully, Jane played it off as if some thought popped into her mind. Less than a minute later, we pulled up to our cabin. I could tell she was still enjoying it. My dad nudged my mom away and started to get out of the car. That's when Jane piped up, "Don't worry, Dad. We made this mess back here. We'll figure out how to bring it to the cabin." Jane and I just sat there, pretending to organize some things in the car. Thankfully, my parents were perfectly content to leave the car and start making dinner in the cabin. When they were inside, I took off the seatbelt, but Jane still just sat there. We sat there for a few minutes until she finally started to lift off of me. I thought she was about to get out of the car until she pushed back down onto my guy even more aggressively than ever before. She finally got out of the car, and I had to use an entire beach towel to clean up the